I'm going to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the first officer meeting of the 2021 term. Myself, Jasmine Herrera, Nate Stevens, and Camilo Colina are all present. As guests, we have John Walker and Marcia Powell. I know that Laura Hartman was trying to get in, but I believe she should have the password issue addressed now. And we now have a Vincent Nowicki as well as a guest. Vincent, please make sure that you're muted outside of member comment when we get to that section. Mr. Stevens, if you wouldn't mind ensuring that you see that we are all available and visible.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Attendance has been recorded.
All right, thank you very much, sir. I mistakenly added approval of convention minutes for item number 3. It should really be discussion about anything that we saw with regard to things that need to be addressed prior to our February meeting. And I want to go ahead and open the floor to any issues that may have been in those minutes. All right, hearing none, we will move on to item number 4, member comment. If there are members wishing to address, please unmute, let me know who you are, and we will try to do this in an orderly way, self-governing, rather than having somebody having to admin this. I will start. Okay, everybody should be able to unmute themselves. So if there's anybody who wishes to make a member comment, now is the appropriate time to seek to be recognized. All right. With no member comment, I'm going to go ahead and move on to item number 5, which is introducing the 2021 term. One of the things that you've probably noticed is we are a little bit more open and transparent with regard to how these meetings work. And if you didn't guess already, I am a stickler for rules, which is why I like to make sure that the rules that we have make sense. And so it says that we have to have an officer meeting every month. I thought our transition would be a great one to begin with, and to go ahead and start the term off right by making sure that we have a properly announced meeting and ensuring that any actions that are taken, because an officer meeting can have votes that would then be ratified by the membership, that it be available to any and all members. Notice was sent out at least 48 hours prior. This is something that I ensure that we will do for any officer meeting. I don't think that there's any pressing issue that we could possibly have that would require us to get started any sooner or a shorter time frame. I intend to have an agenda 7 days prior to a general business meeting and an announcement 14 days prior to a general business meeting. I do intend to have a very transparent situation with regard to my role as chairperson. As you can see, I have in the top right of my virtual background, my email address and the phone number. Text is preferred. That is an official party channel. It is something that was already set up for us. So I want you guys to be aware that if you have anything where you'd like to email me or text me about party business, those are the 2 best options to do so, because I will make those available, any communications there available upon request by any member, assuming that they, aren't just wanting to go for an expedition or keeping me busy with responding to their requests. So the next thing, now that I've kind of introduced an idea of radical transparency, one of the things I do want to let people know, at the very beginning, Laura Hartman, one of our very valued, very awesome members, put the officers and the officer team and her in a group text. And I shared with them the same thing that I'm sharing with you guys. I don't want to have a group text. I believe that it gives us an in-group, out-group. There's I guess, a semblance or I don't want to give the impression that we have an in-group or out-group. I would much rather that we have conversations in this manner. And so just so you guys are aware, there were a few things with regard to planning and transition and welcoming to the team that took place there. If anybody would like to see those conversations, please let me know. I'll be happy to share screenshots. And I told the folks that were a part of that group text that I would be making those available to any member who wishes to see them. Again, it's part of a transparency that I think that we all deserve as members. Moving on, one of the things that I would like to make sure during this term that we do a lot of is that we have activities, specifically activities that aren't particularly business meetings and officer meetings. We saw during the last term the adoption of many social events where we could get together as fellow members and we could interact with one another. I think that that is a fantastic way to make sure that we are strengthening bonds and being able to bring people in to the party. We're able to invite them to events. Some of the ideas that I have and have pursued thus far, I would like, because in all honesty, I believe that libertarians really need to relax. I would like for us to do a maybe monthly, maybe quarterly. I'm not sure about the frequency, but I'd like for us to do like a beginner yoga thing where we just get to hang out and it be virtual, at least to start. Laura has actually helped connect me with a yogi that has offered to do so. And it would be donation only. We would split donations with the yogi and the party. And I think that would be a really cool way for us to participate with each other and interact. You can leave cameras off, whatever you're comfortable with. And when we are a little bit further away from a lot of the issues with regard to COVID, it's something that we can do in person as well as continue a virtual option. I would like to include some speakers as part of our events. I've actually already reached out to Steve Horwitz at Ball State. It's the formerly John Schnatter Institute of Free Enterprise. I don't remember what it's called now, but he and I are friends and I've reached out to him about that. And I have a couple other folks that I'm going to be reaching out with as well. I'd also like to introduce kind of a coffee hangout that gives us a daytime, maybe weekend interaction that would allow for people who can't necessarily make an evening event because, not everybody is available in the evenings. It would give us an opportunity for that. And I have some ideas about how that can actually be something that's interactive and can possibly raise money for the party. And when we get to the events thing, I can go a little bit further into detail. I want to continue our socials, our get-togethers, both virtual and IRL. And I want to make sure that when we do meet safely in real life, that we are also able to have the virtual option. I'd like to explore the idea of potentially having a cookout, maybe doing something around Independence Day where we watch Hamilton as a watch party. That's something that we can kind of get together, whether it's in real life or virtual. That's something that we can do. I'd also like to kind of incorporate a libertarian movie night, a happy hour where we make cocktails and mocktails for those who choose not to consume alcohol. There will be an option for that. And the idea, my sister is actually a bartender. And so I was going to reach out to her and see if she had some things that we could do, that we could, as a group, utilize just for a social gathering. Again, a lot of these things are just something where we can get together because it's going to be a lot harder to invite people to what could be perceived as a stodgy business meeting when we can invite someone their first time to something that is more social. And there are a few other things that I can share either later on tonight or in a future meeting. I want to make sure that we're reaching out and utilizing the voter data that we have access to. That's one of the most valuable tools I've ever seen for a political party. And I think we can actually, and I've already done it broken up the county into 10 regions, which would allow us to make sure that we're hitting different parts of the county with different things that we do when we do have more COVID safe in real life opportunities, and making sure that we're reaching out to the lowest hanging fruit with regard to that voter data, making sure that the LPF, people who have told the state that they prefer LPF over any party, those should be the ones that we're able to invite and get involved most easily. And then we can move on to the NPAs, and then we can move on to the savables and some of the other people in the other parties, especially the older parties. But I'd like for us to get the low hanging fruit first. And the final thing for my introduction of the term is I have never had a regular business meeting, general business meeting, last longer than 30 minutes when it comes to a regular members business meeting. And I don't intend to ever have one that lasts longer than 30 minutes. And the thought that I have there is if we separate the socialization from the business meeting with a clear demarcation point for the socializing to take place after, even in virtual environments, I would like to do so. So upon adjournment, we would move into a lot of the socialization that we've had in the past, and we would remove that element completely from the meeting itself. If there are any comments that you would like to add, Nate, Camilo, Jasmine, now would be a great time to add them. If not, we can move on to our discussion about transition.
No, the only thing I'd like to add, the ideas you have going forward for, progressing the party, growing the party, I would like to add that we should do in some of those events is definitely include some fundraising, for us to be able to grow the party. We're obviously going to have to use funds. They're going to have to come from somewhere. And so obviously our members, new members, things like that can help us, generate that revenue that we'll need to be able to host these events and things.
I believe I am trying to help a little bit right here. If you guys haven't had a chance to look yet, if you look over what is my right shoulder, your left, that is actually someplace that anybody who is viewing this, either as it happens or a recording later on, that is a place where you can donate to the party. Obviously, in item number 7, we're going to have more of a discussion around fundraising that Jasmine has wanted to make sure that we discuss this evening, and I think it is a very important, and I'll add comments there as well. There's nothing further. I'll move on to number 6, the transition discussion. I utilize the chair at pinellasLP.org and the phone number that's right here. That's the way to get in touch with me. For everybody, the best way. It will make sure that we have an archive of all of our conversations that can be shared if anybody requests access. When it comes to the Libertarian Party of Pinellas County page, I would like for all the officers to be admins, and I would like for us to remove any former officers and then discuss the addition of anybody who is a non-officer going forward. The same with the LP group admin, all officers as admins. And I would like to actually change it to a private group that is unmoderated or self-moderated, where we don't go after one another or use foul language. We can actually come up with the rules that have to do with how we interact with one another there, but make it a private group where we can actually have more discussion about ongoing things in the community, as well as some of the topics du jour as they come up. I have several Trello boards that I need to transition that were presented to me in transition from the prior term, and I am working on how to figure that out. If anybody wants to lend a hand and explain to me just some of the things or how I can export things out of Trello, that would be awesome. And later in the meeting, we'll have a discussion about Slack. That's actually a conversation that I would like to have ongoing, where we have multiple channels, and the engaged participants are those who should be there, and those who wish to observe can watch the business of the party To me, it is very important, again, that there's nothing done in the shadows, in the smoke-filled back rooms. I want us to be open. If it is something that we expect of our elected officials, then we should be modeling it ourselves. I have conversed with our prior chair. We are working to set up a time to meet so that I can obtain the physical materials. I understand that there are some books, some pamphlets, the screens that go up and down that have the party information, that we can have the introduction stuff that used to be at our in real life meetings and socials. I'm going to go ahead and work to get that. I believe there's also a tent and possibly some tables. If not, then I definitely want to take advantage of a deal that's happening at Costco with a table that folds in half. It's a 4x8, but it folds in half and carries easily. And it's a lot lighter than trying to carry a regular 4x8 table around. On Saturday, the treasurer and I will be meeting with Jeff. I forget his last name, but he's on the bank account, and he will transition from his name to both myself and Camilo. I'm only going to be on there so that I can utilize a debit card for approved transactions by the officers. And Camilo will be there because he's the treasurer and needs to have access to provide us with accurate financial reports. And he will also have a debit card as well. And I'm not sure who iPhone is, but I will admit them. So whoever iPhone is, please go ahead and mute yourself and change what your name is so that we can see it. So Camilo and I will be meeting on Saturday at 11:30 at a Regions branch to get all of that taken care of. I wanted to make sure that we have 2 people. I'm definitely open to having more in the event that Camilo and I are both walking across the street and a PTSA bus hits us both, that we don't have to completely stop access to the bank account and stop fundraising because we don't have anybody associated with it. Once my bank card is activated, I intend to choose or to move to a new address. I don't want to necessarily have to go to Clearwater, and I believe that it might be Mark's address, his personal home address that is currently being used. And I would rather that we have a UPS store box that offers a street address for party business. And if we're going to do that, I'd like for one that's a little closer to the current set of officers, and we're all a little further south than the previous set. Ms. Herrera, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and sharing a bit about your discussions with Ms. Powell.
Can everybody hear me? Okay. So we did a discussion over email last night for transition. So basically kind of what came out of it, I still need to get access to the vice chair email. So I currently don't have access to that there. If anyone tries to reach me, I don't know if I can just give out my personal one for now until I get access, or what's the best way to handle that at the moment. You're muted, I can't hear you.
I would say to go ahead and continue to use the vice chair, and just everybody kind of has the caveat that you can get to it. I should be able to get you the password changed for you in the next 24 hours.
That would be good. Okay.
Okay, that's perfect. And then I know we discussed earlier, and I'll put it out, that we will be in the process of hashing out my duties and my responsibilities as vice chair. So that's still in the works, because I think the precedent that I've been kind of going through the terms was assist the chair as needed. But I would like to have specific responsibilities and duties going forward. That way there are actual things that the vice chair does. And I think it will keep this position from feeling kind of not like jobless, but like you're not really doing much, like in the future going forward. That way, for the next vice chairs after that, like their actual duties like hashed out, and I'd like to start that precedent. So this week we'll get that hashed out, and I think we can put that out in like the next meeting going forward. The other thing that I have that's transition related, so I got a text from Andy Burns about getting CRM access. I guess now that I'm the vice chair, does anybody know what that is? Because I haven't clicked on the link or tried it. I have no idea what it is.
It is contact resource management.
Okay.
It is we have the ability through the state and through LP National. And Andy did a great job setting that up for LP National through for the states and counties to utilize, to use voter data, people that we have reached out to, membership data, to make sure that we are able to manage that. Currently, I have not had an opportunity to look at it when it comes to what Andy has created, because I had not been in a leadership position between the time that it was actively rolled out until now. So I don't know what it looks like in person, but when I was served on the LNC, it was certainly something that was going to be valuable. We have data that we currently use MailChimp for, and we have collected information there as well. And that acts as the CRM for the county, because I have not yet been transitioned to be able to take that as the county chairman through LPF.
Okay, so I'm assuming that's something we have to work on getting access to. Okay. All right, that works. That's all I have for the transition discussion.
Mr. Stevens.
Oh, it's my turn. Okay. So I have a few things. First and foremost, I have been given administrative access on our party website. As you can see, I was able to post the announcement for this meeting. Secondly, I have yet to gain access to any of our social media or the secretary's email. That's a work in progress. That will happen within a couple days, if not tonight or tomorrow after this meeting. And then I also wanted to speak a little bit on the social media front. Obviously, I'm the kid here. I know a decent amount around social media. I'm studying business and marketing as a big section that I have to study. And at the end of the day, if we want to have a continuity in our party, we need to get more of the kids on board in the long term, at least. And kids don't use Facebook. I know I wish we all did, but we don't. So I'm looking to get access to our Instagram and Twitter handles. I know we have them.
I actually have that login information.
Oh, all right. So I definitely want to start getting at least a weekly post out, and then so a weekly post about some whatever's going on that's relative to libertarianism, and then also announcements about a general business meeting or an officer meeting or any other event that was, if we go ahead with any of the ideas formally put forward by Brent or by Brett rather. And then, yeah, lastly, I think a big part in my role will be reaching out to the low-hanging fruit of Pinellas County registered libertarians. Contacting them will, I think, be a big part of my role this term. So that's about all I have. Open for questions.
Did you want to continue the social media discussion in item 11 or leave it for now?
That I sort of said everything I have about it.
Okay.
Social media is our friend. We want to use it. And as dictated by a class that I took in college, we want to get a weekly post out, keep the name relevant. Oh yeah, LP Pinellas County, I know those guys. And then also we can use it to inform people of any meetings that we have coming up.
So Nate, that's actually what I do in my day job. I have a small business here that's a digital marketing firm. And so I'm happy to work on strategy with regard to marketing and messaging. I may have done a little bit of that out in the libertarian world when I was with the Advocates for Self-Government. So I definitely have some thoughts and ideas, and I look forward to our discussion about that.
Awesome.
I'd like to make a comment, Nate, just actually a suggestion.
course.
I'll tell you, I use in my personal business, I use Hootsuite to manage multiple platforms. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I can post one thing to Hootsuite and it will post to all of those things listed simultaneously. So it's a huge time saver. You can schedule things out and everything like that. So just as a suggestion to simplify and manage all of those different social medias in one place, that's a good way to do it, and it's free.
All right, guys. The last one with regard to transition is Camilo Colina, our treasurer. I did mention that he is meeting with me on Saturday with Jeff Macalino, that's his last name, about getting us added to the bank account. And I actually have login information for you, Camilo, that I can share offline. I don't want everybody to be able to get to the bank account just yet.
Okay, and we're not changing anything over, just changing over access names, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. We're gonna, until that's done, we're gonna keep the login information as it currently sits, and then we can come together to figure out how we want that to go, what we want that to be going forward, who we want to have access, and everybody. Well, Jasmine, Nate, and Camilo, in your email, there is the reporting schedule that we have with the county elections board when it comes to our financial transactions. I'm assuming that those were done for January the 11th. I have not seen anything to the contrary. So our next one won't be until April. But I did send that to your party emails. That's one of the reasons that I want to make sure that you guys have access to that as soon as possible. I'm working on getting in to make sure that I'm able to change or reset passwords for those of you who are looking to get in. I know Jasmine is doing that. And Camilo, I'm sure that you are trying to get in as well. And if we're having an issue with sharing the password or previous password, we can go ahead and reset it and get you guys access as soon as possible. Camilo, is there anything else?
No, I didn't have anything else other than just as far as the reporting, I'd like to see a history of it because I'd like to kind of mirror that when it comes through for the April submission. I mean, I know we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves there, but I'd like to go through and be thorough.
That's actually outlined for us. It's something that we have to fill out. I believe it's a web portal and it asks for specific items. And when it comes to the treasurer's report at meetings, that has not been something that has been provided in a written form or digital form. And that is certainly something that we would want to be able to send out, as well as the prior meeting minutes when I send out the agenda 7 days prior to our general business meeting. If there's nothing else with regard to the transition, Ms. Herrera, you wanted to talk a little bit about fundraising. I'm sure Camilo and I will have a lot to add to it, but I wanted to turn this part of the meeting over to you.
Okay, so I guess I will end it with asking about the limits and what's legal and start with my ideas then. That way I can get your feedback after. So some of the ideas that I came up with, and it kind of almost caveats off of your introduction to the 2021 term a little. Some of the ideas that you came up with for socials, I was thinking we could actually bring a donation box as well in case people do have cash add in for donations. Even with like the cocktail, mocktail night or the coffee event, maybe if we could do something where we have like a space that we're at that's not necessarily a cafe, we can actually create different types of like coffees or lattes, and then people can pay for those with donations. Some of the other ideas that I have, possibly trying to go to like morning markets or gun shows or festivals, things like that. I feel like we should have a lot of people in the party that are pretty creative and can actually create things that we could either like sell there. I don't know if it can only be for donations, or if we can actually sell stuff at a specific price point or anything. But I was thinking of like something like that. Had an idea when I went to Dollar Tree today. Check this out. We can decorate stuff like this. It lights up too. You just have to add a battery in the back. Stuff that kind of like shows off like the Libertarian Party in a way, and sell those types of items, or at least try to get them out for donations just to raise some money. And it can be cheap stuff like this. Like this was only $1, and someone might pay like, you know, 5 or 10 or something, like if you just paint it and add to it or things like that. And then kind of want to end that with like any other ideas that anybody else has, or as well, like what are the limits and kind of what's legal in terms of fundraising, if you guys have any input, like especially your knowledge, Brett.
So I'm not as well versed in Florida campaign finance as I am in other states. That's just a matter of me being a lot newer here than my experience in other states. From what I'm seeing from the Department of State Division of Elections, they do not define anything other than who must be reported for giving. So it's anybody who contributes more than $500 in the aggregate in a calendar year to a candidate or political party, expressly advocates the election or defeat of a candidate or an issue, and spends more than $500 in the aggregate in a calendar year, or those who sponsor a proposed constitutional amendment by initiative. When it comes to limits, except for political parties or affiliated party committees, no person or political committee may make contributions in excess of $3,000 to a candidate for statewide office, $1,000 to a candidate for retention as judge, blah, 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 blah. So I don't see anything that defines a hard limit, but I will be spending time learning to make sure that we do not do anything wrong in that regard.
Okay. That sounds good. I think that opens up a lot of doors for us actually doing fundraising at events, either like throughout the county or throughout Florida for us. So I think that's something to start looking into.
Jasmine, I'll take that as a takeaway for me as treasurer, is to get further details on what the specifics for campaign finance laws are in both Pinellas and in the state of Florida. So I'll take that away, and then I'll come back and circle back with you guys.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you, Camila.
Okay, yeah, because I think stuff like gun shows, that'd be a great place for us to sell some like homemade Libertarian merch. So that wouldn't be bad at all. And they're every couple of weeks in Florida, so that'd be pretty easy for us to fundraise at. Yeah, that's all I have for fundraising right now.
Oh, is anybody married to us using PayPal? They're kind of jerks when it comes to their customer service. It's multiple steps. If you happen to go to this link right here, you'll see how difficult it is for people to give to us at this link right here. This one, I don't know if you can see the one that I'm pointing to. It's actually kind of difficult to do that just because of the way that it's set up. Multiple steps, signing in if you have a PayPal account and the like. It's hard to accept recurring contributions in that manner. Do we want to investigate a different donation solution?
Well, funny you should mention that, Brett. That's actually what my day-to-day business is credit card processing, and we're significantly cheaper than PayPal too. They're 2.6 to 3.5% for processing. So that's money that's being taken away from the party in the donation space, where we have other solutions that we can, even if it's not us providing it, I can at least guide in the right direction to get a better process, because PayPal is it's good if you're selling candles at the flea market on a Saturday, but it's not good for a political party or for legitimate long-term businesses. It's just not effective.
Yeah, as long as we're not having to pay like a monthly fee or a certain minimum in order to utilize the service, and we can get a cheaper rate, I am all for it. I understand the convenience of something like PayPal or Square when you're just getting off the ground and it's in the early stages, but we've been around for, it'll be 50 years come December. Certainly not something that we want to continue to use, especially when they aren't particularly friendly to their customer base. It's actually been, in my experience, very difficult to get anything done when you're trying to get something done, and they are very difficult. And I would not cry a single tear if we moved away from PayPal. Is there anything else that we want to have with regard to discussion about fundraising? Hearing none, I will once again ask Ms. Herrera to take the floor to talk about voter data.
Okay, so I know we discussed a little bit earlier about, obviously we talked about CRM and then needing that county system access for voter data. So pretty much kind of part of what I was thinking is once we get those names of the registered libertarians, MPAs, and like you said, kind of in order of like most likely to respond positively.
Let's reach here before we reach here. Yeah.
Exactly. Basically, we kind of come up with some sort of database that shows whether or not we've reached out to them. Maybe we can have a person who volunteers to do some of the calls or emails, things like that. That way we know exactly who we reached out to, and maybe like a remark or a comment of like how they responded, whether or not they're more likely to either come out to our socials or come start supporting us, or who's just a hard no, so we know not to try to contact them again. I think that'd be like a pretty decent way of trying to keep track. And then of course, all those people who are more likely to come to our events and socials, they can tell their friends. And it can kind of, that hopefully could help us grow from there. So I think that would be a good thing. That's my input for voter data.
So one of the things that was brought up in the prior term that I mentioned earlier, we actually get that data, I believe it's every month from the county. And I'm not sure the method in which it's delivered, but I know that Marcia has received it. I know that Mark has received it in the past. So that's certainly something that's data that we can manage. I've actually divvied up the county into 10 regions by zip code. And I'm doing it by site. I'm not doing it by population. So it's just a geographic breakdown, not necessarily one that has anything to do with how populous an area is. So we can, if we want to take a look at what that looks like from a population perspective, we can. But the idea that I had initially was that we would be able to share with them 1 month, each month out of the year. There are 10. We wouldn't do January and we wouldn't do December, but we could actually host an event for that region of the county and reach out specifically to them. We can mail them postcards, which we can get very cheaply. We can use volunteer labor to do it. The most expensive thing for us is postage. And we would be able to slap stamps on by volunteers, slap labels on by volunteers, put them in the mail to go out and hit a particular part of the county, see where we have some hot spots, where we have a lot of people versus where we have a little people, and start with our LPF folks, see if we can bring more people into the fold. I would love it if we had more than 5 observers for our officer meeting and more than a dozen people that showed up to a business meeting because they are involved. I want them to show up to our socials. If we do the coffee thing, if we do the yoga thing, if we do the speaker thing, if we do the cocktails thing, if we do sunset on the beach, socially distanced for everybody to come hang out together in person outside. And, those are things that we can do, and we can invite them to it. And we can show them that we're not, we're not 3-headed monsters. We're not, we're not crazy people. We're Jasmine, and we're Nate, and we're Camilo, and we're Marcia, and we're John, and we're Vincent, and we're Laura. We are people that we can ask them later on because they know us, because it's a lot harder to say no to a friend or someone that you know than it is to say no to some rando who sent you an email that says, hey, I know that we may not have met, but would you like to be a part of this thing that we're doing? It's a lot easier to say no to that or ignore that than it is for us to say no to somebody that we know, that we have hung out with, that we have socialized with. And so the idea there is that we reach out, especially to the people who have already told the state, hey, I prefer LPF over all other parties. And I prefer it over no party affiliation. So we have an opportunity to reach out to them in that way. We're also going to be able to fundraise on the back of that because we're going to need to raise money to buy those stamps. But we can show the activity. We can show the results from the first couple that we do because we do have the money in the bank.
I like that idea. We could,
Thank you,
I was
Marcy. I saw your.
maybe off of that, maybe we could put our socials in each of those geographical hotspots. That
Mhm.
way, that's where we go each month. Kind of
Yep.
kills two birds at one stone.
Absolutely. And, you know, we can see from the voter data where we have a concentration of people. When I lived in Indianapolis, we actually had the most libertarians in one precinct of any part of the state because we all happened to live within a couple blocks of each other. And so we had the highest concentration of libertarians in the state in one tiny precinct in Indianapolis. So we'll find those hotspots, and we may find that there are people that we know that live near us that identify as LPF that we may not have been aware of before.
Maybe we could even throw Liberty block parties.
Yeah.
So
we have
that
we have
sounds cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
You show up and they're like, oh, the Libertarians are throwing the Liberty block party. I get it. You guys are clever.
Right. We can do a block party. We can utilize a park for a cookout. I mean, we have a lot of opportunities that we can do localized events that are social that we can. And the key, because a lot of the socials that we have had or that I see libertarians undertake have to do with drinking in a bar or a restaurant or just getting together in that way. It really keeps the under 21 voters as well as the people who have family from being able to participate. I saw Nate smile. So is there anything else that we wanted to discuss with regard to voter data? I'm sorry if I cut you off, Jasmine.
No, you're fine.
The next one is the events discussion. I think I unloaded a lot in the intro, so I'm going to give my 5 minutes to Jasmine. Not that we've really been keeping a hard time on any of these agenda items, but yeah, Ms. Herrera, please.
So the only, I guess, key thing that we haven't already hit for events would be, I think countywide, whenever we see huge volunteer events, we should try to participate in those volunteer events. That way all those other people participating can see, oh, hey, the local Libertarian Party is doing a lot to help our community. Like it sets forth like a good precedent for us within the county. And then in that, I'm thinking we should possibly get some sort of, maybe like a shirt or something that says, you know, we're the Libertarian Party of Pinellas County. That way they see it like right on our backs, over the chest. Especially if there's a huge group of us, like at least like 5, 6, or 7 of us, like coming out to like pick up trash on the beach or clean up graffiti somewhere. Like those little things like that, where they see that our party is really involved in the community, because you don't really see that much with other parties. So like that, I think that will speak volumes to a lot of the people locally here.
One of the things that I've seen that worked well in the past, and again, just sharing my experience, is actually having those high visibility work vests that have branding for the party, whether it's just Libertarian at work in stencil on the back, which is literally what we had. The high visibility vests let you wear, because you have a different climate where it's not just warm all the time like it is here, where we can just wear short sleeves 350 days a year. You could just put it over whatever you're wearing and still be branded in some way. We can look at something that's a little more professional if we choose than a stenciled, you know, Libertarian at work,
like
and the URL or whatever. Yeah.
Like a short, maybe like a short sleeve polo. We can do a couple shades. Like if you don't want black to soak up the sun, you can do like gray, kind of like your background.
Well, what we may want to do though is for these specifically is use the high visibility,
Okay, like
of
bright
high
colors.
visibility color. Yeah.
Okay.
So like
I think it'd be,
you know, that safety vest that's
Yeah.
either an orange or like bright yellow, and then, you know, just figure out what we can do to make it visible make our logo and stuff visible so that it's
Reflective.
specific for that activity and reflective, so that we're also showing the personal responsibility of taking responsibility for our own safety.
Okay, yeah, like we could definitely make, I think, the words and maybe the torch reflective, and then the bird can be like that high vis yellow, and then kind of reflective at the top to kind of go with the design. So
Awesome.
yeah,
I love it.
I like it. That's all I have.
Oh, sorry. I accidentally hit the edit button. The next bit is Ms. Herrera again with a discussion around literature. I don't know what we have that Mark has physically, but I have seen some pamphlets and literature in the past.
So the idea that I kind of had behind that is something that's cost effective, first off, because I know we don't have a lot of money to spend on pamphlets or cards or little trifolds, but something small and not necessarily expensive that we can all kind of keep on us to pass out at all of these events and socials for any newcomers or anybody who just wanders in that's just curious about the party, that gets all of the main points across of our party, what we're trying to do. So something very short, sweet, has images, main points, isn't drowning you in words, which should keep the pamphlets from being expensive. That way they can kind of see what they're about, and also hopefully get rid of any misconceptions about the Libertarian Party that a lot of people have when they don't do their research. So that's the idea behind that. That way we can just pass them out whenever we're at all these events and stuff.
Now, I know that the National Party has done a really good job of creating literature that is usable by affiliates. We wouldn't have as much influence over the messaging per se, because it would be what they've kind of decided.
The National Party put out.
Right. And LPF may also do that. I know that there's a Spanish language one for sure that I'm pretty sure is produced by LPF. But I know that there are a couple Spanish language ones that the National Party has put out as well. And it was part of a Los Libertarios effort back in 2011 is where that started, in Texas, actually.
Okay. I'm assuming we have to pay for those?
The cost is pretty nominal.
National sells them at 10 cents a piece.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we could load up on those, and then I'm wondering if we should make a local one though for the county itself at some point.
You all,
Marcia?
I have to leave. I have to leave, but I just want to say how pleased I am with the new set of officers. I love you all. And I've been making notes all the way through here on ideas I have, which I'll be sharing with you as time goes along. So, so goodbye, and I'll be with you as things progress. Okay.
Have a great night, Marcia.
Have a
Good
good
night,
night.
Marcia. Yeah, so the county pamphlets, I'm wondering if that's a good idea to also have on hand.
It can be. I found, generally speaking, if we can boil it down to a push card or a postcard and include contact information and the like, we could actually create postcards that we utilize for some of the mailed outreach that I noted earlier. That we can get, we can get a crazy good price from a local printer who will actually give us 10% off because we are local. I actually priced this out a while ago when I first had the idea about breaking up the county into 10 pieces. And it was very, very reasonable. And I happened to be friendly with the guy. And like I said, 10% off. He's done all of the print work that I've done for my business here. Super reasonable, and would be a great person to go to when we have something designed and ready to go.
Okay, that's a great idea. And that also, I think, would be a great idea for if we do sell stuff at events, maybe we can come up with actual postcards that have either like certain phrases or like things like that kind of link back to us as well.
For sure. I think that's a great idea. I think, kind of taking a little bit from the trendy t-shirt kind of thing, and we could actually make very inexpensive postcards, that you could send that have our contact information, as well as whatever pithy libertarian themed bumper sticker slogan that we want to put on it.
Okay, that sounds great. I like that idea.
Is there anything else with regard to the literature discussion?
I'm good.
All right, Nate, you are up for social media a little bit more if you have anything.
I think I pretty much covered a lot of it. I thought there was going to be more of a challenge about getting our existing handles login.
Nope. I mean,
yeah.
I believe that I have a spreadsheet that has passwords. I have not tried them yet because I've had a lot of things with regard to trying to get email and bank stuff and all that. That all took precedent. But
Yeah.
I will, by the end of the night, all 4 officers will be full admins on the county Facebook page for sure. And we will move forward toward doing the same with the group as well.
Yep. Yeah.
I do have a question about social media. Should we also work on kind of getting some other platforms, like either putting us on like the national Discord, maybe having like a sub server or something under that? That way people from like the national Discord, maybe from Florida, can join in, because that's kind of how I figured this out, was during the election cycle when I was just kind of all things JoJo. Found out she had a Discord and then started asking people all over Discord, like, hey, how do I get involved in Florida? Who do I reach out to? So maybe if we can kind of find a way to like connect on Discord, and then maybe like Reddit or something as well. I don't, it made me feel old in your Facebook comment. I'm like, oh, wow, I really am old now. Okay, I'm old as of last week.
So Discord is certainly a good idea. This is something I'm going to raise later about Discord. I use Reddit. I love Reddit to death, but it's not the place for libertarian.
Tricky. Okay.
It's a lot of the young guys, and how do I put this? This is on public record.
It can be NSFW. Is that what you're saying?
Some stuff can be NSFW, and then also it's a lot of people on there past unsavable, we'll put it that way.
Okay, I gotcha. That makes sense.
They enter the mentality that I am allowed to, or do I want to go into specific? No, I yield my time. I'm on record.
Let's
here.
just go with Reddit bad.
Yes, Reddit bad.
Okay.
If you go into
I only used it to follow GameStop this week.
Go into, I'm very sorry if you short GameStop. I made a lot of money off you in that case. If you go into any thread on any of the large political sub forums on Reddit, you can actually get you can get a lot of fake internet points, and some people even spend money to give you awards. All you have to say are the 3 magic words: F Donald Trump. Free money. It's a hive mind on Reddit.
Yeah, let's just avoid that.
Yeah, so certainly a good idea, in paper at least, but.
All right, so Discord viable.
Yes, definitely, and we are going to talk about that in a moment.
Okay, cool.
One of the other things that I wanted to, while we're talking about social media, video is king. It is, if people aren't doing video now, they need to be. It is the thing that I'm seeing, whether it is short stuff like TikTok. And yes, I realize that it's owned by a Chinese company and we don't really have a whole lot of control over the data, but you have an awesome reach that requires literally no following for you to build and grow. I actually downloaded all of our cloud meetings so that we could free up our space in our Zoom account. But I thought that it might actually make sense for us to put a lot of things like this meeting, for example, out there just on our own YouTube channel, whether we do reels on Instagram or we put video on Instagram or we do video on Facebook. Video is, there's so much that happens with it. And it gives you an opportunity to use it as pillar content for your social media presence. It is one of the things that I am telling literally every client that I work with that if they aren't doing video now, they need to be. And why haven't they started already? The other thing that we can look into is passive audio consumption, even if it's just audio that's stripped from existing video sources and content that you create, is seeing a huge turn. We're seeing changes with the way that Apple handles podcasts. We're seeing Spotify change the game a lot when it comes with podcasts. And so passive audio consumption is something that we can consider, even if it's just recording conversations that we have about politics and about policy, and just package it as it is something like that and include a bit of information about the local affiliate. We have an opportunity there. Those are things that aren't being done by really anyone other than national level politics, national party level politics. And I think that we have an opportunity if we're able to manage it.
I think for TikTok, we could actually do something where we take one, like branching like libertarian point per video, like maybe like once a week or once every other week. I don't know what the algorithm should be to like keep the numbers up, and then kind of make something creative around it.
For all platforms, there's no such thing as too much content.
Okay. I wouldn't want to
They're all
run out of
desperate.
ideas. But yeah, like we could take something that's like one major point and then do like a TikTok video around it. We just have to make it catchy and creative. And then like kind of start doing that, and we could probably build from there.
One thing that we need to be considering with regard to a lot of social media is we need to be more focused on the things that we can affect in our neighborhoods, in our cities, in our county. The focus on local politics is something that we need to, as a local political party, local affiliate, we need to be providing a libertarian perspective when it comes to things like what's happening with Tropicana Field and the raise and the corporate welfare that they have their handout for and the like. So keeping an eye more on local and less on national is going to give us an opportunity to really make an impact with the people that we can touch and we can reach.
Is there a way to also kind of like get those ideas and stuff in local news without doing it in a bad way? Like either opinions or stuff like that?
Yeah, the other thing is we actually do need to work on press releases when we see an issue and making sure that we are utilizing that as an avenue to get our name out in front of people in the media. Okay. And it looks like I have Vincent Nowicki asking to be recognized. I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. And oh, I lost him. Hang on. Vincent, you should have the floor, sir.
Oh, hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on. Laura invited me, and
nice.
And you said about libertarian perspective on Tropicana Field. That's why she invited me, because I filed to run for mayor of St. Pete this afternoon.
Nice.
Awesome. Very cool.
So I'm excited to get to work and provide real solutions, be the fiscally conservative, socially moderate candidate that people are looking for in this race.
Yes.
Awesome. Vincent, I'd actually invite you to participate in the public comment upcoming, if that's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Was there anything else with regard to item 11, Mr. Stevens?
Not for item 11.
Okay. Item 12, I talked to quite a bit at the beginning about transparency. If we don't know what everyone is up to, we don't know if we're doubling efforts. And we also exclude anybody who isn't a part of the in-group. I wanted to use this meeting as an example. It's not just the officers that were elected last week. We are including any member that was able to click a link, that got the email, that saw the Facebook event. And, you know, we're making sure that we have, we're making sure that we have the, we're setting the example that we want to set for government and leading in that way. I noted that I plan to have an agenda prepared 7 days prior to every meeting. I'd like to include the minutes as well as a treasurer's report at that time, announcing those general business meetings 14 days prior, and like I did with this, at least 48 days prior, with a proposed agenda for any officer meeting. We have mandated in the bylaws that every meeting has a remote participation option. That is for the general business meetings. I'd like to include that as frequently as we can. And I intend for every officer meeting to be broadcast with the member comment opportunities that are included in this agenda that I invited Mr. Nowicki to utilize in item number 15. Was there anything that, and then the next item, if there aren't any questions about my thoughts with regard to transparency, that actually leads into the next part of our discussion.
Yes. So we, with the interest of transparency and being able to communicate with each other, we want to have some form of central platform in which we can do that. Slack and Discord are likely the two first that I had come to mind. And as such, I've done some looking around with the pros and cons of each. So Slack is generally more business oriented. And with that, oh, the background noise is over. So with Slack, it's more business oriented. It's been tried and tested by a lot of different companies. Tumblr, they're a big blogging site. Their staff uses it. However, I found two issues. One, so in the long term, unless we pay for it as a software as a service, which isn't necessarily something we need or want to do, we're not going to be able to view very old messages, very old being a year ago. So that is a large hole in any long-term transparency goals. And then secondly, we would want to have some channels where only certain people can talk in said channel, but everyone can see it. Certain people can talk, but everyone can see it. And I do not believe that Slack is able to have such a function. It's either they can't see it or they can talk in it.
Okay. Yeah. So my concern with regard to having everybody participate in a way that they can both observe and participate is we don't want to be overrun when there's a specific objective for that channel. So I imagine, though, that Nate, you have an idea for what we can do in place of that. I'm not particularly concerned about the long-term transparency. If we set forth that the expectation and policy is that we aren't going to keep stuff over a year, it's just not going to be accessible as a limitation of the software we're using. But the other one is definitely a deal killer.
Again, so I'm not trying to impose what decision we should be making. I'm just trying to list the pros and cons of each. So alternatively with Discord, it's much more of a programmable interface. We can have a verification. We can also have different roles that we can set people apart. So you can clearly see this person is the chair, this person is the vice chair, this person is the secretary, this person is an elected, this is a committee chair. And then also we can have our channels in which only elected party officials can talk, but everyone can view them. And then the downsides with Discord is that one, I found that it's a little bit, it can be more confusing depending on how we set it up for, I'll say, those who are more technically challenged. And then secondly, I would imagine we would stick with Zoom mostly. However, you cannot integrate Zoom in with Discord. I don't see that being too much of a problem because I would just click on a link through Facebook and open it in my Zoom app anyway. And then make sure I'm not missing anything.
Can you do video calls on Discord?
You can do video calls on Discord. You would need a separate piece of software if you wanted to record them. We generally wouldn't use Discord video for official business, but if I just had a quick question for Brett or something.
So we actually have a Discord account, or I believe we were using Sebastian's. I'm not real sure. When we were first exploring remote or virtual meeting options, that was something that was discussed because it is a little more technically advanced. I believe we found that Zoom worked better for our needs and was something that people were more familiar with when it came to meeting. However, if we didn't utilize the video component and used it in what I envisioned or hoped that we would be able to do as a way to communicate in a transparent way, I think that that might be able to meet our needs, and we may already have something available to us that it exists. I will have to log in, and Nate and I can have a conversation about what that looks like and if it meets kind of what we have talked about. And that might be a good thing for us to have a discussion about at the February meeting, Nate.
Mhm.
Sorry to jump all over you there. Was there anything else with regard to item 13 that you had?
No, that's about all I have. I just want to stress I'm not issuing a recommendation. This is just what I found pros and cons as I use both on a daily.
Perfect. I actually don't have anything in new business. There's no vote that's going to be taken tonight. And so that was just there in the event that something came up and as a placeholder for us. So I'm going to open it up to any member of the Libertarian Party of Pinellas County, which would mean somebody who resides in Pinellas County that is registered LPF or identifies as a big L Libertarian that resides part of the year in Pinellas County and would like to be recognized. I know Mr. Nowicki also asked to be recognized during that time. So if there's anybody else, just shoot a message in the chat, and that'll probably be the best way for me to find you. And I'll go ahead and recognize Mr. Nowicki for a couple minutes.
Hey, good evening, Brett. Thanks for having me on, and thank you, Laura, and thank you, the beautiful Libertarians of Pinellas County. Hopefully you're all doing excellent this evening. I filed my paperwork today to run for mayor. I was a registered Republican in Maryland for, since I turned 18. Moved to Florida about 5 going on 6 years ago and worked on campaigns for Republicans down the ballot. And that's where I met Laura during working for early voting. And as we talked, it seemed we had a lot of similar values to where, we can be fiscally conservative, but the government shouldn't have any business on what people do inside their house, in the bedroom, or on your property. And simply the government to get off your back and out of your pocket type mentality. And I kind of think that's where libertarians kind of fall, I would say. If I'm wrong, feel free to correct me. But I think the real path for victory in St. Pete is to have a fiscal conservative and someone that's socially moderate and not afraid to cut out the wasteful administrative spending and then reinvest that money into social programs, into youth programs, so we can bring down the crime rate, we can end poverty, while at the same time not having to increase millage rates or utility fines or parking fees.
Now, Mr. Nowicki, I have a couple of questions for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it. I guess it's my technically first interview.
I'd be much tougher on you if it were an interview. Are you currently registered as LPF, NPA, or RPF?
I am currently registered as an NPA.
Okay. And the role that you are seeking with the city of St. Petersburg is a nonpartisan position. Is that right?
Correct.
All right, perfect. I actually would like to have a couple of folks who are running for nonpartisan positions in the county come to a social post business meeting as a way to just meet some of the voters that the Libertarian Party has to offer. There would be no pressure for them to stick around necessarily. Would that be something that you'd be interested in doing?
100%.
Terrific. Was there anything that you wanted to leave us with, or anybody who may watch this after the fact?
I'm really excited to get to work for the residents of St. Pete. The city has been underutilized, and me being a small business owner, I'm looking forward to delivering real solutions instead of just kicking the can down the road that's been happening for the last decade.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
Thank
Are there any other members that wanted to utilize the member comment this evening?
Laura Hartman.
Laura, please share.
I am completely in awe right now. I love the radical transparency. I love the ability to use the power of community, the power of our networks, and still have transparent, authentic conversations. I think not only moving forward with op-eds, I know personally I've published an op-ed with my libertarian views against Tropicana Field. So just leveraging the tools and the knowledge that we already have as a party to help impact local politics.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Laura. And it was very nice to have you all evening. I apologize about the password issue earlier. I believe I have fixed that going forward.
All is well. I'm excited to do this.
All right. Are there any other members who wish to utilize the member comment? Hearing none, Ms. Herrera, Mr. Stevens, Mr. Kalina, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn this meeting.
Ms. Herrera, Mr. Kalina, a second.
I second that.
I second that.
All right. Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, it'll pass by acclamation. Thank you guys so much. I will go ahead and end the recording now with that adjournment.